Picture this: a tiny, weathered notebook, its pages yellowed and curling at the edges, sitting on my kitchen counter like a silent confession. I found it this morning, tucked behind a jar of stale coffee grounds, as if it had been waiting for me to stumble upon it. My name is Chloe. I'm 29 years old, and I've been married to Nathaniel for almost 5 years now. That notebook, though, it's not mine. It's his. And as I stand here, the morning light spilling through the window and casting long shadows across the linoleum floor, I can't shake the feeling that I've just unearthed something I wasn't meant to see. Nathaniel and I met in a way that felt like fate, though I'm not sure I believe in that sort of thing anymore. We were both at a local art gallery, drawn to the same obscure painting of a storm-tossed ship, its sails tattered but defiant. He made a quiet comment about the artist's use of shadow, and I couldn't help but reply, sparking a conversation that lasted hours. He's 32, a man with a sharp mind and a quiet intensity, someone who always seems to be thinking 3 steps ahead. He works as a freelance graphic designer, often losing himself in his projects for days at a time, while I manage a small bookstore downtown, surrounded by the comforting weight of stories that aren't my own. Our life together has been steady, predictable even. Mornings filled with hurried coffee, evenings spent debating whether to cook or order takeout. But that notebook, with its cryptic scribbles and hurried handwriting, feels like a crack in the foundation of everything I thought I knew. I haven't opened it yet. My fingers hover over the cover, tracing the worn leather, as if touching it might burn me. I keep imagining Nathaniel's face if he walked in right now, his dark eyes narrowing in that way they do when he's caught off guard. Would he laugh it off? Say it's just old sketches or random thoughts? Or would there be something else in his expression? Something I've never seen before? I've always prided myself on knowing him, on understanding the quiet spaces between his words. But now, standing here in our small, cluttered kitchen with the hum of the refrigerator as my only company, I'm not so sure. There's a weight in my chest, a mix of curiosity and dread, like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff and deciding whether to jump. Our apartment is a modest place, a second-floor walk-up with creaky floors and windows that rattle in the wind. It's home, though, or at least it has been. The walls are lined with Nathaniel's sketches, bold, intricate designs that seem to capture entire worlds in a single stroke. And my books, stacked in uneven piles because we've never gotten around to buying proper shelves. Every corner of this space holds a piece of us, a memory of late-night conversations or silly arguments over whose turn it was to do the dishes. But today, it feels different, like the air itself is holding its breath. I slip the notebook into my bag, not ready to confront whatever secrets it might hold, and decide to get out of the apartment for a while. Nathaniel suggested we head to the old library downtown this afternoon, a place we used to visit often in the early days of our relationship. Maybe being there, surrounded by the familiar, will help me find some clarity, or at least distract me from the weight of unanswered questions. The drive to the library is quiet, almost too quiet. I sit in the passenger seat, watching Nathaniel's hands on the steering wheel. His knuckles pale from gripping it just a little too tight. His focus is on the road ahead, but I can't help wondering where his mind really is. The radio hums softly in the background, some old jazz station we don't bother turning up because neither of us feels like filling the silence with sound. I steal glances at him, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man I fell in love with, the one who used to look at me with a spark in his dark eyes, like I was the only thing in the world worth seeing. Now his profile is sharp and distant, his jaw set in a way that makes me ache. I want to reach out, to touch his arm, or say something to break through the wall that's grown between us. But my hand stays in my lap, fingers curling into my palm. The city blurs past us, gray buildings and flickering streetlights, but all I can see is the space between us, wider than it's ever been. When we finally pull up to the library, I feel a small rush of relief. The building looms before us, grand and ancient, its stone facade weathered by time but still imposing. Ivy creeps up one side, clinging to the cracks like it's trying to hold the place together. We step out of the car, and as we approach the heavy oak doors, I'm hit by a wave of nostalgia. This place has always felt like a sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos of the world. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of aged paper and polished wood, a smell that instantly transports me back to happier times, days when Nathaniel and I would wander these aisles together, laughing over obscure titles or reading passages aloud to each other in hushed tones. The wooden floors creak beneath our feet as we cross the threshold, and I glance around, taking in the towering shelves that stretch toward the high ceiling, their dark wood gleaming faintly under the soft light. The library is quiet, save for the faint whispers of other patrons and the occasional rustle of turning pages. Green-shaded lamps cast gentle glows on the walls, creating pools of light and shadow that give the space an almost otherworldly feel. I notice how the atmosphere seems to settle over us like a blanket, and yet it doesn't bring us closer. Almost instinctively, Nathaniel and I part ways, drawn to different corners of this vast maze. He heads toward the historical nonfiction section, his steps purposeful, while I find myself drifting toward the poetry section, a place I've always gravitated to when my mind feels tangled. The shelves here are narrower, more intimate, as if they're guarding secrets in the spaces between the books. I run my fingers along the spines, feeling the texture of worn cloth and cracked leather, letting the quiet of the library wrap around me like a cocoon. My thoughts are still a mess, swirling with questions about Nathaniel's notebook and the distance that's crept into our marriage. I'm trying to lose myself in the rhythm of the titles, Whitman, Dickinson, Frost, when I hear a soft footstep behind me, deliberate and close. I turn my head slightly, and there he is. Julian. I've seen him before, I think, maybe in passing at the library or around town, but never this close. His presence is sudden, but there's something about it that doesn't feel intrusive, almost as if I've been expecting him without realizing it. He's striking in a way that catches me off guard. Dark, tousled hair that falls just over his forehead, a faint scar slicing through the skin above his left eyebrow, giving him a rugged, lived-in look. His eyes are a piercing gray, sharp and knowing, and when he speaks, his voice carries a quiet intensity, low and measured, like he's choosing every word with care. "Chloe," he says, and my breath catches. How does he know my name? I don't ask, though. I just stand there, rooted to the spot as he steps closer, the air between us shrinking. "Are you looking for something specific?" he asks, his gaze flicking from me to the shelf and back again. I open my mouth to answer, but before I can find the words, he moves even closer, his hand reaching past me to a particular book on the shelf. His sleeve brushes against my arm, and I flinch at the unexpected contact, my heart suddenly pounding in my chest. I don't pull away, though. I can't. His fingers guide mine to the book, his touch firm yet gentle, and I feel the rough edge of the spine under my fingertips as he traces it alongside me. The gesture is deliberate, almost too intimate for this quiet, public space, and the warmth of his hand sends a jolt through me. I'm hyper-aware of every sensation, the faint scent of his cologne, something earthy and dark, the way the dim lamplight catches the angles of his face, casting shadows that make him look both dangerous and magnetic. Then he leans in, his breath warm against my ear as he whispers, "Your Nathaniel wants you to feel the words without him." The words are cryptic, unsettling, like a riddle I'm not sure I want to solve. They hang in the air, heavy with meaning I can't quite grasp, and yet they ignite something deep within me, something I've kept buried under layers of routine and doubt. Guilt surges through me, sharp and bitter, as I think of Nathaniel somewhere on the other side of the library, lost in his own world. But I'm frozen here, torn between the weight of my vows and this strange, thrilling pull that Julian seems to wield so effortlessly. His hand brushes my waist just for a moment, a fleeting but deliberate touch that shatters the silence I've grown so used to. It's as if the world narrows to that single point of contact, the warmth of his fingers seeping through the fabric of my sweater. My breath comes shallow and quick, each inhale catching in my throat as I struggle to process what's happening. I glance around nervously, my eyes darting to the shadowed corners of the poetry section. But there's no one else here. At least, not that I can see. The library feels emptier than ever, the scent of old paper and dust wrapping around us like a veil. My mind races with justifications, a frantic litany of excuses. Nathaniel and I have been so distant, I'm just caught up in the moment. This doesn't mean anything. But deep down, I know I'm lying to myself. I don't stop him. Instead, I lean into the moment, letting the forbidden thrill of it wash over me. Betraying Nathaniel in this quiet corner of the library where the world seems to have fallen away. My heart is a drum in my chest, each beat louder than the last, as I grapple with the weight of what I've just allowed to happen. The warmth of Julian's touch lingers on my waist like a brand, a reminder of the line I've crossed, and I can barely bring myself to look at him now. Shame floods through me, hot and suffocating, mingling with the adrenaline that still courses through my veins. I step back, my trembling hands reaching for the edge of the shelf to steady myself, the rough wood grounding me as I try to catch my breath. My breathing is uneven, ragged, each exhale sounding too loud in the oppressive silence of the poetry section. I can still feel the ghost of Julian's whisper against my ear, his cryptic words about Nathaniel echoing in my mind like a taunt I can't decipher. I'm about to turn, to say something, anything to break the tension, when I catch a glimpse of movement just beyond the shelf. My eyes dart up, and there he is. Nathaniel. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch that feels like the ground has vanished beneath me. He's standing just past the row of books, his figure partially obscured by the towering stacks. But I can see enough to know it's him. The faint light from a nearby lamp glints off his wire-rimmed glasses, casting tiny reflections that dance across the lenses like cold, distant stars. His hands are still clutching a book, fingers wrapped tightly around the spine as if it's an anchor, and yet his posture is unnervingly still. His face, it's eerily calm, almost expressionless, as if he's carved from stone. There's no flicker of emotion, no hint of what's going through his mind, and that terrifies me more than anything. I realize, with a chill that creeps down my spine, that he's been watching, not just for a moment, but for long enough to see everything, motionless, observing, taking it all in. I expect to see anger flash across his features, or maybe hurt, a crack in the stoic mask he so often wears. I brace myself for disgust, for the betrayal to register in his dark eyes and twist his mouth into a grimace. But none of that comes. Instead, slowly, impossibly, his lips curve upward. A smile. Not a warm one. Not the kind I used to see when we'd share a quiet joke over dinner or linger in bed on a lazy Sunday morning. No, this is something else entirely. An enigmatic, almost predatory smile that seems to know something I don't. It sends a shiver racing down my spine, cold and sharp, as if someone's dragged an ice cube along my skin. My mind spirals, a whirlwind of questions crashing into each other. What is he thinking? Why isn't he reacting the way I thought he would? Why does that smile feel like a warning? Like a door creaking open to reveal something I'm not ready to face. I'm paralyzed, rooted to the spot, my hands still trembling as they grip the shelf. Part of me screams to run, to turn and bolt down the aisle, out of the library, away from the weight of his gaze and the suffocating guilt that's clawing at my chest. Another part of me, smaller but insistent, wants to go to him, to explain, to beg for forgiveness even though I know I don't deserve it. I don't know what to do. and the indecision is a physical ache, tightening my throat and making my palms slick with sweat. The air in the library feels heavier now, thick with unspoken words and the scent of dust that suddenly seems to choke me. I can hear my own pulse hammering in my ears, a frantic rhythm that drowns out everything else. Julian, sensing the shift, steps back from me, his presence no longer a pull but a weight I want to shed. He murmurs something under his breath, his voice low and clipped, about needing to check on another patron. I don't catch all of it. My focus is locked on Nathaniel, but I feel the space between us widen as Julian disappears down the aisle, his footsteps fading into the labyrinth of shelves. I'm left alone now, the silence of the library pressing in on me like a vice, suffocating in a way I've never felt before. My eyes are still locked on Nathaniel, standing there beyond the stacks, that unsettling smile lingering on his lips. Each step I take toward him feels heavier than the last, as if the wooden floor beneath me has turned to quicksand, dragging me down with every movement. My legs tremble, not just from the guilt that's gnawing at my insides, but from the sheer weight of what I'm walking into. I don't know what I'll find when I reach him, and that uncertainty is a blade twisting in my gut. The faint creak of the floorboards echoes in the stillness, each sound amplified by the oppressive quiet, and I can feel the eyes of invisible spectators, though I know it's just my imagination, watching my every move. As I draw closer, the dim light from the green-shaded lamps catches his face more clearly, and I see something in his eyes that stops me cold. It's not anger, not the raw pain I expected to see after what he just witnessed. It's not even betrayal. Instead, there's a strange, quiet acceptance, almost a flicker of amusement dancing in his dark gaze. It's as if he's been waiting for this moment, as if he's already played it out in his mind 1,000 times and come to terms with it long before I even knew what I was capable of. My breath hitches, and I feel a wave of dizziness wash over me, the edges of my vision blurring for a moment as I try to process this. How can he look at me like that? How can he stand there, so composed, when I feel like I'm unraveling at the seams? He speaks first, his voice low and steady, cutting through the haze of my thoughts like a knife through butter. I knew you needed this, Chloe. I've always known. The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. I stand there, stunned, my mouth opening and closing as I search for something to say, but nothing comes. My mind is a chaotic storm, grasping at the meaning behind his statement, trying to make sense of the calm in his tone. He adjusts his glasses with a casual flick of his fingers, as if we're discussing the weather or what to have for dinner, not the shattering of trust that just unfolded before his eyes. The gesture is so mundane, so utterly normal, that it makes my skin crawl. How can he be so unaffected? He continues, his voice still eerily even, as if he's rehearsed this speech. I've felt it for months, you know. The disconnect. The way you've been restless, pacing through our life like a caged animal looking for a way out. I saw it in the way you'd stare out the window when you thought I wasn't looking, in the way your laughter stopped reaching your eyes. His words slice through me, each one a precise cut that lays bare the truths I've been hiding even from myself. I want to deny it, to tell him he's wrong, but I can't, because he's right. I've felt that restlessness, that aching need for something more, something I couldn't name until today. And now, hearing him say it out loud, I feel both absolved and condemned in the same breath. He knew. He saw me crumbling, and instead of pulling me back, he pushed me toward the edge. I brought you here, to this library, not to reconnect, he says, his gaze never wavering from mine, but to give you what I couldn't, a release, a moment of raw, unfiltered emotion, something to wake you up. My heart stutters at that, a mix of horror and relief flooding through me. Horror, because he orchestrated this, because he saw my unraveling and chose to let it happen, maybe even encouraged it. Relief, because in some twisted way, his words lift a fraction of the guilt from my shoulders. He wanted this for me? He saw my need and decided to let me fall, to let me feel something, even if it meant breaking us in the process? As Nathaniel's words settle over me like a heavy fog, I feel the library walls closing in, the shelves looming taller, the shadows deeper. I don't know how to respond, how to bridge the chasm his confession has carved between us. So I just nod, a small, jerky movement, as if that could somehow convey the storm raging inside me. He steps closer, not to touch me, not to comfort me, but to signal that it's time to leave. We walk out of the library together, side by side, our steps echoing on the worn wooden floor, but there's no contact, no brush of hands or shared glances. The silence between us isn't the same oppressive weight it was on the drive here. It's different now, charged with something new, less suffocating, more like a shared secret, a knowing that neither of us is ready to voice. I can still feel the ghost of Julian's touch on my waist, the memory of his whisper in my ear, but it's Nathaniel's calm, calculated gaze that haunts me as we push through the heavy oak doors and step into the cool evening air. The drive home is a blur of light and shadow. I sit in the passenger seat again, staring out the window as the streetlights streak past us, their golden glow smearing into long, hazy lines against the darkening sky. Every now and then, I steal a glance at Nathaniel. His profile is sharp against the dim interior of the car, his hands steady on the wheel, no longer gripping it with that tense, white-knuckled force I noticed earlier. He looks at ease, almost, as if what happened in the library was a weight lifted off his shoulders rather than a wound. I wonder if he feels the same strange relief I do, or if his mind is somewhere else entirely, plotting the next move in a game I didn't even know we were playing. Will we ever speak of this again? Will we sit down over coffee tomorrow morning and pretend it never happened? Or will this moment fester in the quiet corners of our marriage until it tears us apart? I don't ask. I can't. The words stick in my throat, heavy and unspoken, as the city hums around us, indifferent to the chaos in my heart. When we finally pull into the narrow parking spot outside our apartment, the familiar creak of the building greets us as we climb the stairs. The air inside feels stale, like it's been holding its breath since we left. I drop my bag on the counter, the notebook I brought to the library still tucked inside, untouched, a silent witness to the day's unraveling. Nathaniel moves past me without a word, settling into the armchair across the room with a book he picked up from the library, a thick, leather-bound volume on ancient architecture, something so mundane it almost feels like a mockery of the upheaval we've just lived through. He flips the pages slowly, his eyes scanning the text as if nothing has changed, as if the world hasn't shifted beneath our feet. I watch him for a moment, searching for a crack in his composure, a flicker of something. Anger? Pain? Anything. But there's nothing. Just that same quiet intensity, that same impenetrable mask. I sink into the chair at my desk, the small wooden surface cluttered with pens and stray papers, a half-finished crossword puzzle from last weekend peeking out from under a stack of bills. My notebook sits in front of me, its cover staring back like a challenge. I trace the edge of it with my finger, the rough texture grounding me as my mind spirals. What happened today with Julian? It wasn't just a mistake, a fleeting lapse in judgment. I liked it. I liked the way it made my pulse race, the way it tore through the numbness that's been creeping into my bones for months, maybe years. I don't regret it, not even now, with Nathaniel sitting just a few feet away, his presence a constant reminder of the vows I broke. It's not that I don't love him. I do, in a way that's deep and tangled, a love that's grown roots in every corner of my life. But what happened today woke something in me I thought was long dead. A hunger, a need to feel alive again. And as I looked into his eyes, I realized it was time to confront the truth and find a path that honors both our hearts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.